Verstappen's future in Red Bull is hanging on by a thread, and it seems like Aston Martin is ready to take full advantage of the situation. The Silverstone-based squad is currently struggling in the last season of the ground effect era, but the hopes for 2026 are extremely high. There have been offers made towards the four-time world champion, and although anything is to be confirmed yet, with the latest downfall in Bahrain, I highly doubt Max will think twice before denying such a lucrative offer on his table. Can Aston Martin bring themselves to the top of the grid with Max? And more importantly, is Lawrence ready to get rid of his own son in the team? A very interesting and rather dramatic evolution of events happened at Red Bull this weekend, when Verstappen's manager expressed anger with the car's performance to Marco. The team held an emergency meeting in which these matters were addressed, but it doesn't automatically mean that Verstappen is going to receive a better car to race with. Quite the contrary. Fears have emerged that the problem with the RB21 is fundamental, and it cannot be fixed with a couple of upgrades. Therefore, it would be too optimistic to hope that they can be anywhere near the top if they continue with the current rate of development. After the Bahrain Grand Prix, we saw that there's been a big disappointment in Verstappen's camp that's been shared by his manager Vermeulen. According to Ted Kravitz, he went on to disclose this with Marco, who was supposed to talk about it in the emergency meeting that was held right after the race, explaining how it all went down in Red Bull's garage. Kravitz said, "Raymond Vermeulen, Max's manager, came into the Red Bull garage and gave Helmut Marko what can only be described as a piece of his mind. He was remonstrating with Marko, who was just standing there taking it, and then Raymond stormed off back to the garage, sort of taking his pass as he went. Clearly, they're not happy." Helmut Marko has spoken about the risk of seeing Verstappen leave the team and join forces with one of their fiercest rivals, either Mercedes or Aston Martin, as he went on to add, "The concern that Max will leave is great. As I said, improvements have to come in the near future so that he has a car with which he can win again. We have to create a basis with the car so that he can fight for the World Championship. We need to get the car's performance back as quickly as possible, and standards like a pit stop have to work. If the car is not the fastest and then the pit stops don't work either, that is not acceptable." Obviously, even Verstappen lost hope that he can fight for the championship, because he said that he is just a participant in this year's World Championship and that McLaren is not his rival. But what's even more defeating is that he has a neutral approach to the entire situation, which goes to show that he's likely going to think about his future elsewhere. When talking about how he generally feels about the current situation that he and Red Bull are in, even though this was the first weekend in which both of their cars scored points after Las Vegas in 2024, Verstappen said, "I always try to do the best I can, even in disappointing or let's say frustrating situations. But you have to move on. We keep discussing and keep trying to improve. We know that we have our problems. Even if you win a race, that doesn't go away. I already said that last week. Anyway, I'm not the guy who thinks when you have a positive or negative scenarios. You get influenced by them. I'm still very neutral. You just have to keep on working." And this is where teams like Aston Martin come into play. The Silverstone-based squad has been quite open when it comes to luring Verstappen, as internal reports have stated that the four-time world champion is the top priority for the foreseeable future. It seems like hiring staff like Newey and bringing Honda on as their engine provider from 2026 onwards is part of the plan to bring Verstappen on board. The Dutchman can now see how big of an influence Newey's had in the success of Red Bull. Of course, there are other figures like Rob Marshall who brought their significant part of the success, but the general belief is that everything started and ended with Adrian. To make matters more interesting, Honda has opened up on the question as to whether or not they will have a say in the drivers' lineup with Aston Martin. According to the president of Honda, Koji Watanabe, they will still be involved in the same way they were involved with Red Bull in all these years. And when talking about it to a great extent, Watanabe said, "After this season, our focus is on the collaboration with Aston Martin. Honestly, I hope that there will be another opportunity for Honda to work with Max Verstappen. I sincerely hope so. I've spoken to him many times, and he always has been positive about our attitude and mentality. Max is also very strong in communication with the Honda engineers. He talks clearly with them, and that ensures that the engineers have become fans of his and why they are extremely dedicated to him. The number of seats will be reduced. However, as for us, we will continue to voice our options as Honda in deciding the drivers for 2026 and beyond. Obviously, the team has the final say in deciding which drivers join the team, but the situation will be the same as Red Bull, where we will have our say." And even Verstappen himself didn't want to rule out a future collaboration with Honda. As a primary factor, he stated his age. More precisely, he said that he's young and he cannot comment from this point as to whether or not he will be fully committed to a project if he sees that it's going downhill. When talking about it to a greater extent, the four-time world champion said, "I'm still quite young and you never know what happens in the future. I could never have imagined the heights we would reach with 4 championships won together." Now a big question needs to be answered as well. Who is going to be replaced by Verstappen in Aston Martin? The most logical solution right now would be Alonso because of his age and statements that 2026 is probably going to be the last year of his career. But if we're to look at Lance Stroll's performance, it clearly shows a sign of degrading as well. The Canadian is currently responsible for 100% of the points that have been scored by the team in 2025. But on the other hand, we can't act like he didn't drive like a criminal in the past couple of years. He does have a lot to prove if he wants to remain in the sport, and the actions of his father have been proving further that this project is supposed to be built around Lance and not any other driver. But if a top prospect like Verstappen arrives, I highly doubt that Lance will ever have the opportunity to live up to the expectations of the team, regardless of the condition of the car. Max will always be able to push it to the absolute extreme, whereas Lance will know that he won't get punished for his poor performance. There's going to be a massive discrepancy in the performance of these two drivers, and it's definitely going to prompt a change in the behaviour of Aston Martin's partners like Honda and Adrian Newey. We must not forget that the Brit is also a technical partner of the team, which goes to show that his input in the driver's choices is going to be a lot bigger than we could have originally anticipated. But the primary goal would be to bring Verstappen's attention and to show him the potential in the same way that Newey was given the offer from Lawrence. This is why Juan Pablo Montoya, the former F1 driver, believes that there is a looming offer from the other team that Max will find it too hard to deny. Elaborating further on this, he said, "I think Max will get an offer he can't refuse from Aston Martin. He might give Red Bull a chance for a year and a chance for Adrian to start figuring it out. Adrian can't do that immediately. It's a whole new group and everyone needs to start working together. Are they going to be better than where they are next year? For sure, but I don't think they're going to start winning a string of races." There's definitely a growing concern that Verstappen could get snatched by Red Bull, and whether we like it or not, it's just something that cannot be turned a blind eye to, especially when you have teams like Mercedes who are yet to show full loyalty to their lineup. Wolff said that he wants to continue the process of working with Russell and Antonelli, but we all know that an opportunity like Max is too hard to pass on twice, which is something that's been commented on by Martin Brundle. When talking about this, the Sky F1 pundit has gone on to say, "I think if Max Verstappen sprung into the marketplace, I would be quite worried for George actually, because Kimi is obviously their man to flip-flop for the future. But there is a lot of ifs in there. George is doing a great job for them as team leader, but Toto missed Max once. I don't think he'll miss him a second time should he get the opportunity." With all of this in mind, do you think that Verstappen is going to leave Red Bull for Aston Martin? And if so, do you think he'll be replacing Alonso or Lance Stroll? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.